Hello, welcome back to another video. My name's Alex and this is the Crafty Camper channel. In this episode I'm going to try and get a fair bit done, or at least a fair bit for me. It's another soggy Saturday outside, so you know I'm going to have to fight some showers here and there, and I think the weather forecast is pretty poor for this for today, but I've got to crack on regardless. So in this episode, probably the biggest step I'm going to do is I'm going to try and insulate some of the ceiling. I've got a plan for that, and I'll come to that a bit later in the episode when I get to it. But that feels like it's like the dessert, really, the dessert of the meal today. But first, before we can eat the dessert, we've got to do the vegetables, and that is getting the aluminium quarter round bar. That's got to go on the roof first because that'll allow me to seal these other bolts that I've got. The ones where the solar panel has gone up, they've all sealed. They've been sealed for about a week. We've had some really heavy rain here this week in the UK, and it hasn't leaked, so I'm really pleased about that. I've got some of this blue roll. I just got some of this and just went and wiped each of the bolts just to see if there was any moisture on them, and they're all completely bone dry, so really pleased about that. I use this like adhesive silicone by Evo Stick. I use that to seal the nuts to the bolts, and that's worked really well. So I'll use that again, and it can be applied to wet and dry, and yeah, it's great stuff. So anyway, yeah. So if you haven't seen when I took down the ceiling, and I was a bit shocked to find some condensation, I'll leave a card up here, and you can go back and have a look at that. And then since then I've fitted the solar panel. So if you haven't caught up and it's the first time you get in there, like go back and see some of the other ones just to get a bit more context of where we're coming from, or at least where I'm coming from. So my plan is I'm going to use like a closed cell self-adhesive foam, and I'm going to stick that to the metal panel of the roof. So after filming that video, I sort of sat and I thought about it a bit, and I realised there were some factors that I wasn't really taking into consideration when I was talking in that video, because it was new to me, it was fresh, I hadn't processed it. So what I realised was it was only wet on the sides, because that was the part of the roof that wasn't covered by the solar panels, like the solar array on the ceiling. That was the bit that like the outside air could touch the metal on the outside, and that was the bit where the inside air met that bit in the metal. So that's where condensation occurred. And I also realised that the front slope above the cab, that's got that neoprene foam on it, and there wasn't any condensation there at all. So the same internal air was able to get to that surface where it wasn't covered by a solar panel, and it didn't there was no condensation. I keep wanting to say condensate, but I don't think that's right. The condensation didn't occur. So I think what I need to do is I need to insulate and just stop the air from touching the metal surface, and that way there's not that massive temperature difference for it for condensation to occur. So yeah, so closed cell foam directly onto the metal. Then I'm going to use my rigid insulation, this stuff, which is only 25 millimeters thick, and this bit's Kingspan. I've also got some Celotex, so it's just that PIR rigid insulation. So that'll go on next. And then I've also got some foil backed closed cell foam to go over the top, and then I'm going to seal everything with aluminium tape. So it's going to be kind of like a multi attack on stopping it from condensation. So it'll be closed cell foam on the metal, the rigid insulation, then closed cell foam, sealing it all in with foil, and then aluminium tape around the sides and on the joins to try and seal it off, to try and stop the air from getting there at all. So that's my plan, but before I can get to that, I've got to finish the roof off because I need to seal this all up before I start encapsulating the ceiling. So let's get to that first. Roll the time lapse. Right, so that's the vegetable part of this video done. I've got these roof rails on that I want to do. So you can see like where the position of the old solar panels used to be, and just actually how the other one's a bit wider. That's what I did in the last video. So so this means that I can seal the bolts underneath that go through the roof, and I don't have to find a solution to that. But also, it gives me the option that if I want to, I can put some sort of roof rack or something up here if I want to in the future. But that may be weight dependent, because I mean the point of this is to reduce the weight of the van, not create more places I can put weight into. So anyway, I'm still quite awkwardly on the ladder right now, so I'm going to get down, and it's not very nice out here. You can probably hear the wind, and I had a couple of rain showers amongst doing this. So anyway, that it also means that this is the roof sort of finished until I come to do the max air fan, which will come up in a future episode. Yeah, you can see where I had to cut the aluminium, because actually the quarter round stuff is a bit taller than the other stuff, the square stuff that I used to mount the solar panel. So I just had to notch it out a bit just to slide it underneath to get to one of the bolts right at the front. But you know, it's a little modification. No one will see it, only you guys. However many of you watch this. So anyway, before I get blown down, I'm going to go downstairs. I'm going to go down the ladder and go inside the van and start working on the closed cell foam. Okay, now for the bit that you've been here for. You didn't care about the stuff before, I'm assuming. You wanted to know how I'm going to solve my condensation problem. So, as I said at the beginning of the video, this black closed cell foam didn't have any condensation on it at all, and that was like open to the same conditions as like this piece of metal. Just the only difference was, if you remember, this is where those big globules of water was. The only difference was it didn't have the closed cell foam on it. So I've got a big reel of it, big roll of closed cell foam. So my plan is to basically just put strips across and insulate the metal to stop the air from touching, the moist air inside the van from touching the cold metal. I'm hoping that will fix it, and then I can put my solid insulation up, and then I've also got this self-adhesive bubble. Well, if I can get to it, this like self-adhesive bubble, foil back bubble, to like go over the top to try and reflect the heat back through the ceiling once it's up. I did say at the end of the last video about the condensation that I was going to take my caddy to be weighed. So basically get it weighed, get rid of all the wood that I've taken out of the van so far, and then get it weighed again afterwards. So it's not all of the wood that came out, but it's a majority of it. And actually it was 160 kilos of wood that I've taken out. Now that sounds like a lot, but I'm a little bit worried it's not enough. I thought it was going to be more, in all honesty. I mean, I know there's things that aren't in here that didn't get thrown away, but yeah, I don't know, because basically 160 kilos is about the weight of me and Sophie, and I've got to, I'll let you work out the split, I ain't saying that. I've got to rebuild the van. So yeah, I'm a little bit worried that maybe it's not enough, but that's only the wood. Like, we haven't taken into account the solar panel and all that sort of stuff. So I think once I've got this ceiling done, I might take the van and go and get it weighed and just find out what I'm starting from, and then I can try and calculate the stuff that I'm going to be putting back in, and then have a good starting point, because you know, it might be that I've got to go a bit further with this, and take up the floor and then rebuild my kitchen worktop, and the sink, and you know, everything. I might have to go further. I've started at the top, but doesn't mean I can't, you know, carry on at the bottom. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. 160 kilos of wood I've taken out so far. So yeah, hopefully this is all worth it. Otherwise I've gone through all this expense and effort for nothing. But anyway, right, let's get on with doing the roof. Okay, so that's the first bit done. I guess I'll just have to rinse and repeat for the rest. I won't be able to get the whole ceiling done in this episode because the bolts that I've done, I've sealed them with the Evo stick stuff that I showed in the earlier in the video, and I want to make sure that they're not leaking, so I'm going to leave them for a week before I finish that off. But I won't bother filming it because it'll just be like rinse and repeat into this. So anyway, I'm really good at procrastinating and just finding other things to do, distracting myself. But there's nothing else to do but just do it, you know. I really wish I could pay someone else to do this for me, but it all comes down to me. I know, right? Cry me a freaking rainbow. Right, okay, that's as far as I can go with this for now, because this is the bolt here that is the one that I worked on today, and I want to make sure that that's dry before I start encapsulating it. But it gives you a flavour of like my thought process. So the next job, I'm going to see if I can. I'm not going to see. I'm going to do. I'm going to put the rigid insulation back up, and then have a go with the adhesive bubble wrap. And then I've got somewhere. And I've got some of this silver aluminium tape to seal all the gaps up with. So yeah, that'll be a good start, I think. And yeah, just crack on with it, I guess. One of the things I regret not doing on my last build is actually putting expanding foam in these cross members. So yeah, now's as good a time as any to actually get it done before I put on this this bubble wrap. The expanding foam got off and popped inside and had some lunch. Well, I think it's 4 o'clock now, 20 past 4, so lunch is a bit late lunch. Anyway, so I'm now ready to put on this foil layer. So I took foil off before, but that wasn't self-adhesive, so I've tried to make life easier for myself. Yeah, so hopefully I can just peel this off, stick it up, and then seal up any areas with the tape afterwards. Any of the joins and where I've got to cut out around this alarm sensor and that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm using these like plasterboard. They're for like holding ceilings up for plasterboard inside a house. So I'm just using these to temporarily hold the insulation up. It's like a third hand really. You might be thinking, where's Sophie? But she and James go. James is her brother. They go walking most weekends. That's like their hobby. So they've gone off walking, and this is my hobby. So we're both doing our hobbies, just they're different. So anyway, less talking. Let's just get on and do it. Let's see how this goes. So that's about as far as I can go without knowing that the bolts are dry. So that'll probably take about 24 hours for that stuff to go off, I think, just because of how cold it is. So yeah, hopefully that gives you an idea of how I plan to fix the condensation problem. And I must admit, I'm hoping this works. The thing is, because now I'm going to seal it all up, I'm not too sure how to know. I was just doing it on faith, really, and what I think is the problem. So I think, yes, stopping the air from getting there by sealing it with this tape and the foil, the foil bubble wrap. I'm hoping that creates a moisture barrier so that moisture air can't get to it to start off with, and then using that closed cell foam to insulate the actual surface that the water creates condensation. I'm hoping by removing that surface, it won't. And then added a bit of insulation to my cross beams, as you saw in the squirty foam stuff. So yeah, it's about as far as I could go. In the next video where I actually work on the van, I will put in the max air fan. So I'll finish off the ceiling off camera, because you've got an idea of what I'm doing, and you don't need to just see a time lapse of me doing that. So yeah, I'll finish off the ceiling off camera after I know that those bolts are dry, and then I'll be putting in the max air fan, and then that will mean that everything's in the ceiling and on the roof. That means I can finish off this insulation, and then I can start putting up a new ceiling. So yeah, that's kind of the progress. I think that's like what's going to come, and that's sort of the order of things. That's what I'm trying to say, the order of things. So anyway, this is meant to be a DIY and adventure channel, and so far the past few months it's just been DIY. You can see why. So I think we need to do an adventure. Please do subscribe to my channel. It's obviously in the early days of the rebuild, so it's a really good opportunity to subscribe and get notified of whenever the next videos come out, and you can keep up to date with the progress. Please do leave a comment if you think that what I've done here is not enough, or if you think there's something else I should be doing, because at the moment it's not too late for me to change it. If you've come up with a really good idea, a really strong reason that's backed by science as to why something should change, or I've done it wrong, it's not too late to save me. When I put the ceiling up and I start putting fiberglass on there, in about a month's time, I think that's going to be the point where it's too late, and you're going to have to forever hold your peace, I think. So anyway, I think this is where we'll leave it. Thank you so much for watching, and you'll see me on the next one. Goodbye.